Wife cheated and left after 22 years of marriage. Daughter took her side. Betrayal stories. Wife cheated and left after 22 years. Daughter took her side. I waived all rights in court. Now she's panicking. Before we continue, write what country you're watching this from and your age. Enjoy listening. My name is Nicholas Ellison. I'm 45. Just a year ago, I was sure I had everything under control. I ran my own landscaping business, built from scratch. We had a cozy house in Red Hills, a wife I'd lived with for 22 years, and a daughter who was my life's meaning. From the outside, it looked like a dream. Stability, love, family. Irene, my wife, was studying journalism at State University when we met. Smart, energetic, with a laugh that made even waiters turn around. I first saw her in the faculty coffee shop. She was fiercely pounding her laptop keyboard, oblivious. It took 3 visits and 1 accidentally spilled coffee mug for her to finally notice me. We were young, maybe too young, but it seemed we knew exactly what we wanted. 8 months after meeting, I proposed right by the fountain on the embankment. The ring cost me 3 months of side jobs. But her eyes then were worth it. "Are you sure?" she asked through tears. "Exactly, because our whole future is ahead. I'm sure. I want to walk this path with you." A year later, Kendra was born. We hadn't planned kids so soon, but when Irene said she was pregnant, it felt right. I still remember holding my daughter for the first time, a tiny being with Irene's eyes and my stubborn chin. At that moment, I silently promised, "I'll give you the whole world." The first years were tough. I worked 14-hour days, just starting my company. Irene finished her studies and stayed with Kendra. We lived in a tiny rented apartment where you could hear neighbors arguing through the walls. Often ate instant noodles, waited for payday to buy diapers. But damn, we were happy. Going through hardships together bonds you. We celebrated every little thing. A new client, Irene's first published article, Kendra's first steps across our cluttered living room. "We're building something real," Irene said, leaning against me on the old couch. When Kendra finally slept, almost unbreakable, I believed her unconditionally. We were that couple people said, "Look who made it." I saw us in 40 years, on a porch, in rocking chairs, among grandkids, smelling homemade pie. By Kendra's 16th birthday, my business was well known throughout the county. Irene became editor of the society section at a major city paper. We bought a house, took vacations, started saving for her college. We'd made it, or so I thought. Only later did I understand what we'd built everything on had long been cracking, but I didn't hear it. Too convinced we were special. After 2 decades of marriage, you know you're beloved like yourself. I noticed Irene loading the dishwasher, not in her usual rush, but methodically, precisely, as if every movement mattered. It was odd. I noticed her starting to work late 3 times a week. "Big story," she'd say, walking past with her bag as dinner cooled. This coincided with her new assignment, a corruption investigation at City Hall. Logical. It just didn't feel genuine. I always trusted my gut. In business, it saved me. If a hillside seemed unstable, I reinforced it, even if the client objected. That same gut screamed, "Something's wrong." One evening, after finishing a major contract for a new city park, I decided to bring her favorite Thai noodles to her office. Wanted to surprise her, like before. The newsroom was empty. The guard, who knew me from company parties, nodded. The 7th floor was almost deserted. "Nicholas, not sure she's there." I found her office, only a desk lamp, glowed in the corner. Through the glass door, I saw Irene. She was on the phone, laughing lightly, sincerely, like she hadn't laughed at home in ages. My fingers went cold on the food bag. I could burst in, yell, demand answers, but I just stood in the shadows, watching. She was different, alive, not with me. When she hung up, she lingered on the screen, smiled, and started typing. I left before she saw me, threw dinner in the lobby trash. That night, I lay beside her, listening to her breathe. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing. No warmth, no comfort, just emptiness. The next morning, while Irene showered, I did what I swore I never would. Took her phone. Nothing suspicious. No strange calls. No messages. Either I was going crazy, or she'd gotten careful. The answer came 2 days later. Kendra borrowed my work truck to move furniture to her dorm. When she returned, she handed me the keys and a receipt. "Dad, what were you doing at the River Inn on Friday? Weren't you on a business trip in Tula?" I hadn't been to Tula or the inn, but someone had paid there with my business card. I knew who. I don't act on emotion. 20 years in business taught me, check facts before deciding. I called Mike, an ex-detective. I'd once landscaped his yard for at cost. "Sure about this, Nick?" he asked, as we sat in his car across from the newsroom. "I need the truth." I clenched my jaw. "Once you know, you can't unknow." The receipt had the details. River Inn, Friday night. I was home. Irene was supposedly at a conference. Someone lied. Mike spent a week on surveillance, then called, "Come, she's there again." Came by taxi. Been in the room an hour, not alone. I left a meeting. 20 minutes later, I was at the hotel. "Hers?" I asked, pointing to a silver Audi in the lot. "No, his. She arrived about 40 minutes ago. He's an editor from Pittsburgh. Daniel Ryabtsev." The name hit like a blow. Daniel, the one she spoke of with a faraway look, who left for Pittsburgh just before we met. Enough. I gave Mike the camera. Didn't want to see more. I didn't make a scene, didn't curse. Instead, I booked an appointment with our family therapist, Dr. Zimmer. Told Irene I was burned out from work, wanted to talk. She agreed, almost with relief, probably thinking I hadn't guessed. At the session, the doctor asked, "How are things? Anything changed?" I replied, not taking my eyes off Irene. "We're both busy." "It's just a phase," she responded, nervously twisting her fingers. "Irene," the doctor said softly, "is there anything Nicholas should know?" Silence. Then her phone vibrated in her pocket. She glanced at the screen, and something broke in her face. I've been seeing someone, an old acquaintance, ... Daniel Ryabtsev. "He's not just an acquaintance," I said calmly. She snapped her head up. "How do you know? Doesn't matter. What matters is you lied. You used my card to pay for hotel meetings." The doctor tried to intervene, but Irene stood up. "I'm sorry you found out like this, but maybe it's for the best." Daniel and I reconnected. I realized, ... realized he was always the one for me. She stood in the middle of the office, back straight, voice firm. "We had a good thing, Nick. Cozy, but not right. I tried to love you. I really tried." I listened as 22 years crumbled before my eyes, as everything I thought was love suddenly became an attempt. We drove home in silence, no words left. At home, Irene started packing immediately, frankly, coldly. "Just like that?" I asked, standing in the bedroom doorway. 22 years, and you just leave?" She stopped, holding a sweater. "I didn't plan." Daniel wrote about job openings at his Pittsburgh paper. It started as work, ended differently. So it just flared up. She looked away. I think I loved him all along. Just tried to move on with you. Built a good life, comfort. But seeing him, it all became clear. I didn't even know what to say. A hurricane raged inside, but outwardly I remained the same, composed, stubborn, quiet. Don't trouble yourself. I won't be your backup plan. I walked out and slammed the door. Went into Kendra's room, now the guest room. Everything was as before. Certificates, debate trophies, old photos. And then, as if on cue, the front door slammed. Mom, Dad, Kendra called. Why are both cars home? She walked into the hall and saw us. Irene with a suitcase, me in the shadows, utter silence. We need to talk, Irene began, sitting on a chair in the hallway. She told our daughter everything. About feelings fading, about Daniel, about how true love doesn't disappear. I expected Kendra to explode, scream at her mother, but something else happened. So you'll finally be happy, Mom? She asked, squeezing Irene's hands. I hope so, sweetie. Irene smiled through tears. Then maybe this is right. My own daughter watched silently, the girl I stayed up nights for, built a business for, forgot myself for. Now she was encouraging her mother, who abandoned our family for an old flame. You don't know the full picture, Kendra, I said hoarsely. I know Mom was unhappy for years, and you were only busy with work. Maybe you just didn't notice. It was a blow, not with words, but with her look, sympathy, regret, contempt. You're saying she deserves happiness with someone else? Yes, she answered firmly. Isn't that what matters? Something snapped inside me. So be it. You've decided everything without me. I grabbed my keys and wallet. You're doing great without me. I was done. I spent 3 nights in an old motel on the outskirts. Local truckers, worn tiles, a humming soda machine. It matched my state, tired, broken, but not yet shattered. On the 4th morning, I returned to the house. Irene was at work. I came not for explanations, but for my things, documents, silence. In the home safe, I found an envelope marked personal. Inside were letters, dozens, 15 years of correspondence between Irene and Daniel. Some would burn them. I didn't. I read. The whole story was there. From confessions to tears, from sorry I vanished, to maybe fate gives us a second chance. The last letter was 6 months ago. He wrote he was divorced. We're free. I didn't shake, didn't scream, just understood. This wasn't a flare-up. It spanned our entire time together. I wasn't a husband. I was a compromise. As I gathered documents, Kendra walked into the office. Dad, what are you doing? Taking what I need. Mom's worried. You just left. She wrote love letters to another man for 10 years. Think I left without reason. I handed her the stack of letters. She started reading, at first confidently, then slowly. Then her hands trembled, but she said it was recent. People lie. Even parents, she cried. I remember how happy we were. That was real. Or did I imagine it? Was it real, or did it just seem that way? That's what betrayal does. It blurs the line between truth and illusion. What will you do now? The only thing I can. Move forward. But this is your house. It stopped being my home when your mother decided I was the backup plan, and when you decided she was right. But she sobbed. You made a choice. You thought Mom deserved happiness. Well, so do I. I kissed her forehead, walked around her, and left, leaving behind the life I'd built for over 2 decades. Everything went fast. No hysterics, no shouts, just documents, signatures, rulings. As we exited, Irene appeared at the entrance with her lawyer, a striking woman with an expensive briefcase. "Nicholas," she said quietly. "Already filed," I replied. "Perhaps we can discuss terms," her lawyer interjected. "We're prepared for a fair division." "I want nothing," I cut her off. "House, accounts, savings. She keeps them. I take the business, my personal savings, and what I've already moved. You can't be serious." Irene looked bewildered. 22 years ago, you chose me. Now you chose another. I'm simply respecting your choice and exiting the game." We moved to a conference room, 2 pairs of lawyers, 1 glossy table surface, several gazes, some cold, some tense. Sandra clearly stated my terms. No disputes, no alimony, no claims. I won't wage war against a woman who betrayed me, but was once close. Just as it was almost settled, Kendra burst in. "Stop," she shouted. "I can't watch this." "How did you find out?" Irene asked. "A girl from college told me. Her parents are divorcing too." I couldn't stand it. I nodded to the lawyers. They left. "This isn't your business, Kendra," I said calmly. "How is it not? You're my parents. This is between me and your mother. Everything I'm doing isn't out of revenge. I'm simply refusing to fight for material things with a woman who betrayed me for years," she sobbed. "You're giving away everything you built, just like that. I'm losing nothing important. Everything truly precious to me either already betrayed me or stands before me in tears deciding who to be with." I stood up. "Today I lose the status of husband, but I gain something far more valuable, self-respect." 6 months passed after the divorce. Ellison Landscaping grew almost twofold. We secured 2 major municipal contracts and an order for landscaping an elite county community. I moved to a simple but cozy apartment with a river view. Not one photo of Irene, just work, my team, and peace. This continued until Thanksgiving. We don't officially celebrate it, but symbolically, it was a day for summing up. Kendra came into the office. My secretary said, "You're free." She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes. "I'm working. We have a deadline for the Sunny Shores project. Mom's apartment sold. She and Daniel are moving to Pittsburgh. Bought a place there. That was her right. The house is hers now. She didn't even discuss it with me. That was our home. My life was there." I stayed silent. "Seems you just erased everything. Think it was easy for me." She broke down crying. I was wrong. I found Mom's diaries. She kept them all this time. Letters, reflections. She always saw you as the safe choice, comfort. "You deserved better," I sighed. "People see what they want." She needed to see herself as a victim, and I believed. "I'm sorry, Dad. Can we try again?" I looked at her, and for the first time in ages, something warmed inside. "How about dinner? There's a decent steakhouse nearby." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a foundation, and on a solid foundation, I knew you can build anything. Exactly 1 year passed after that steak dinner. What started with one meal became a venture. Kendra proposed an eco-direction within my company. Sustainable landscaping consulting, smart drainage systems, green roofs. I doubted at first, then gave it a chance. 2 years later, her department worked with the biggest developers in the county. 3 full-time specialists, dozens of projects. We were opening the Eco Center Green Valley, the first retail park complex with a full rainwater harvesting system, solar panels, and landscaping per her design. "Proud of you," said Roman Zurovlev, an investor and longtime partner. "The city already wants you to redesign the entire riverfront." That's all her doing, I pointed to Kendra. Smarter than her old man. When Roman stepped away, a woman approached. Her face seemed familiar. Lena Merkalova, the new director of urban planning policy. We'd briefly met at a council meeting. Nicholas Ellison, pleasure. She appraised the terraces, paths, hedges. They say you build not just with your hands, but you help people grow. That's rare. Sometimes, to start anew, you need to raze everything to the ground. Lena nodded. I divorced, too, just moved from Portland. Everything's new. I offered to grab coffee, just friendly. A year later, we lived together. 2 years later, we married. Without fanfare, without drama. Just two adults who'd been through their own fires, choosing to trust again. 5 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything, but it turned out I was just clearing space for the new. Like in landscaping, sometimes you need to uproot the old to plant the living. We grew, we became different. Thanks to all who are here. Amid applause, I looked at Kendra. She stood next to her, that same guy from college who once trembled, shaking my hand. Now he worked with us, leading sustainable construction projects. And Lena stood beside me, her ring shimmering in the lights. With her, a peace I hadn't even had in youth. She'd be proud of you, Kendra said later as we stood by the garden's stone wall. Mom, I asked, surprised. No, Grandma, your mom's mom. She always said you built not just with your hands, but with your heart. I felt a pang in my chest. A wise woman, by the way. Mom's back, teaches journalism at a community college. Daniel vanished, total divorce. Planning to see her someday, not now. Some foundations need time to heal. I nodded. Do you know where your home is? Here. She pointed at the house, the garden, and me. Here. We walked back. The last guests were saying goodbye. Lena waved from the porch. I felt something special. Not because everything became perfect, but because I emerged from the pain and rebuilt everything from scratch with my own hands. The past stayed past, and crucially, I didn't break. I became different, stronger, deeper, calmer, and that was the best revenge possible. To live so there's nothing to regret.